Good evening, everybody. My name is Donovan, and I'll be talking a lot about Peru tonight. I just spent 2 months in Peru, June and July, working through some new adventures with Embark. I've been to Peru more times than I can count. Embark runs lots of adventures there. So tonight I'm going to share with information I don't share with everyone in terms of kind of what to expect. If you have any questions, you can type to me in the chat. Okay, so my background, for those of you who don't know me, I've been planning expedition trips for more than 2 decades now. It's kind of crazy to say that, but I've been doing this for more than 20 years. And I plan adventures all over the world and then some areas. So we've done it. We do adventures kind of everywhere, a lot of custom stuff, a lot of trips for foundations and things like that, and then just for individuals like yourself. So my background is in adventure travel. So here's what you're going to learn tonight. A couple things, okay? One, key regions, trails, and towns for trekking in Peru, right? 2, best areas for hiking near and around Machu Picchu, which I think some of you are calling in for tonight. 3, best time of year, what to expect on a supported trek, okay? So there's a lot of what we do is supported. You can use the information or not. The same type of support is the same type that our companies use as well. And my personal recommendation on what I believe is one of the best treks in the world. I'm talking better than Everest Base Camp, better than probably your Kilimanjaro treks or lots of the other ones out there. So that's what you're going to learn tonight. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat one last time to make sure. And you can type questions in and I will try to answer them at the end. So most people come for this, right? Everyone comes to Peru for this. Oh, wait, one more second here. I forgot. Okay, most people come for this, Machu Picchu, right? But most people never see this, right? Rainbow Mountain, probably the most photographed picture that you've ever seen on Instagram. The filters are on Instagram, though, if you do see those. Amazing trip, right? Ausangate Mountain Range, great trek, which I personally believe will be one of the top treks in Peru in 3 to 5 years. Salcantay Mountain, that mountain is over 20,000 feet, right? And so that is a great area. Most people they might see Salcantay Mountain, but most people come for Machu Picchu and go on a very scripted adventure to Machu Picchu. Or Cordillera, Blanca, and Huayhuash. Look at this, absolutely stunning. This is where we spent more than a month coming up with trips through all of July. So all of these exist in Peru, but yet everybody wants to go to Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is great. It is amazing. It is the top attraction in South America. So let's do some facts. I know some of you have seen a few of these as well, but trekking season is April through October. June is busy, but also great weather. I was there in June. I was in Cusco in the region we're going to be talking about, and I can tell you there are fairs and festivals, and for 3 weeks, it's building up to the celebration of Cusco. So great time to be there. You need at least 2 to 3 days in the country before trekking. Cusco's 11,000 feet. There's a lot of people who come on these adventures who get 3 or 4 days into their trip and they fail because they've not acclimatized. That is very true. You must get there, arrive, hydrate, and relax. That's important. To do a good trek the right way, you need a minimum of 10 days to 11 days in the country. I highly advise that. This is for both northern Peru and the Cusco area, which is in southern. Gear is easily rented or purchased in the core trekking areas around this country. And we're going to be talking about those core trekking areas. Just out of curiosity, can someone message and say if they can see my laser or my pointer? Please let me know. Okay. So there are 4 key areas that offer the best trekking. Okay. So let's go to this first off. This is Cusco, and this is what we're going to talk about. And inside of this area, we have Machu Picchu, the Sacred Valley, right? Salcantay Mountain, Ausangate Mountains. They base out of Cusco. So it's the state of Cusco and the city of Cusco. Now look at this. This is the spine of the Andes, right? This is the spine. And on this right-hand side is also the Amazon, right? So more than 2/3 of Peru is actually in the Amazon. And then you have the side where the people live, right, on this side as well. Not all the people, but a lot of them, okay? And then the second is Ancash, the state of Ancash. Two key areas inside of here, right? We have the Cordillera Blanca and the Cordillera Huayhuash, right? And it's all based out of Huayhuash, right? So Cusco trekking, Huayhuash trekking, okay? All right, perfect. All right, so moving along, two in there, two areas out of this, and this is what we're going to be talking about tonight, okay? This is key. State of Cusco, right? So the state of Cusco is the main city at 11,000 feet. So when I think of 11,000 feet, I think of the top of Mount Hood, which is very, very high, right? You fly from Lima. You must spend 2 nights here before attempting anything. 3 days is better, okay? Cusco is the main access point for Machu Picchu, Sacred Valleys, and Ausangate region, trekking and more, okay? We just got to get through the core piece and then we'll make it a little bit more exciting. Most people come here, trek here, and only stay here because of Machu Picchu, right? So you ask any of your friends or people, hey, where'd you go to Peru? I went to Machu Picchu, right? And this is generally the area that they've come, and for good reason. So here is the state of Cusco, right? Here is Lima. And so people fly into here, spend a few hours, and then fly over to here, okay? So moving on. Let's start with Machu Picchu, okay? I like Machu Picchu a lot, but there's a lot that people don't know about it. First off, there's a bunch of trails, and these are Incan trails, right? It is not the Inca trail. These are Incan trails that come to Machu Picchu, specifically on this side over here, dropping down into the valley. Additionally, so if you look at this is in lower elevation. This is only almost 8,000 feet, right? You're going to fly into 11,000 feet, spend a few days there, right? And then you're going to go over to Machu Picchu, right? Now, I'm not going to get into the history of Machu Picchu. It's Incan citadel built in the 15th century. If you decide to go there, you will get that experience. So I know some of you have seen this part before, but just get through the piece and then we'll get into more detail. Inca Trail. The Inca Trail, so there's multiple ways to reach Machu Picchu, right? Machu Picchu, to reach it is to hike to close to it, to hike to it. And here are kind of 3 of the many different treks that are in there. We have the Inca Trail, 26 mile, 500 people leave per day in the busy season, 500 people the next day, 500 people the next day, 4 days up, right, to get there, crowded. Untitled Trek, 46 miles, 6 days, 15,000 feet, best for a lodge trek, right? Hidden Valleys of Untitled, 47 miles, can actually come down 8 miles if you don't do the Sungate, but 5 days, mileage includes Sungate, 4th day. Okay, so these are ways to reach Machu Picchu. Some of these ways reach the base near Machu Picchu, but you still have to take a train to get over to it. You still have to take a bus up to Machu Picchu, but we will get into more of that later, okay? So let's go here. Okay, this is kind of a little bit convoluted, but I want you to see something here. So here's the town of Cusco, right? So after you spend your time there, you get on a transfer, like a private vehicle, and you come right down here, and this is called the Sacred Valley, okay? And so you come to the Sacred Valley, and it's a gorgeous place. If you've ever been to the Columbia River Gorge in the Pacific Northwest, it's a lot like that without the water, right? We recently spent a few weeks here as well, kind of exploring this area, right? And you come to the town of Ollantaytambo, which is the base to getting to Machu Picchu, right? So from here, the roads kind of go away, and we actually have to take a train all the way through the mountains to a town mainly only accessible by train called Aguas Calientes, which means hot water, right? And here's your access point to Machu Picchu. Okay, here's your access point. Now, I have these 2 red lines, right? Like, what are these, Donovan? Well, the bottom one is another trail, and I just kind of scribbled it on there. It's another trail it's the Hidden Valleys, that takes about 5 days to get there. So after 5 days and you finish a trek, you go back and you sleep here, and then you go to Aguas, you go up to Machu Picchu and back. Here's another trail. The Lodge Trek goes along this side of the Salcantay Mountain. So this mountain is over 20,000 feet, and each one of these trails basically gets you to Machu Picchu. This one, you actually have to take a little train again, just for a short distance, to get back down to the town. A lot of times people get to the town, they stay here, right? And then they go up to Machu Picchu early in the morning, which we will get more into that later. Okay, so Machu Picchu itself. Most tours of Machu Picchu spend only 3 to 4 hours. So if you think about your trip there, you're probably only going to be at Machu Picchu 3 or 4 hours, right? Some people do a variation where you hike up above it the night before, right? And that's one of the things that people do. And then inside of Machu Picchu, there are additional areas to hike, should be planned in advance. Now, wait till you see what I'm going to show you here in a minute. Huayna Picchu is the most famous of those short hikes, and Machu Picchu Mountain, most impressive views of Machu Picchu, okay? 99% of the people do not do this, okay? So if you're a hiker, you're a trekker, you're gonna wanna get there, right? You're gonna wanna do you wanna just wander through on a tour of Machu Picchu, or do you wanna really get a little taste of it? So let's look at what that looks like. Okay, so here I am with my family a few months ago, right? At Machu Picchu, right? One thing just to note, guys, never, you take selfies here, you got to be careful. People fall off this thing, right? And get hurt and die. So, okay, so here we are at Machu Picchu. And this is called Huayna Picchu. This is a great hike that actually goes around and comes up this crazy, crazy backside. If you have vertigo, you would never do this hike, right? It takes about an hour and a half. It is absolutely a crazy fun hike to do to get to the top. This is the old watchtower, okay? So this is a beautiful, a fun trek, but if you're scared of heights or anything like that, this would not be the trek to do. Okay, now I'm on top of it and I'm looking down, right? So this is, now I'm up at the watchtower and I'm looking down at Machu Picchu. So again, the red line, this is kind of Machu Picchu. Doesn't look like much, but if you look at the top of your screen, you're actually going to see Machu Picchu Mountain, right? So Machu Picchu Mountain is up there at the top, the very top point. So this group right here, if you can look, right? So there's a track that basically goes like this, comes all the way up like this, cuts all the way back, goes along the ridge, all the way up. This, to me, is very, very cool. This is something that you should do and plan it again. Again, most people don't do this. So if you look at these lines right back here, this are the switchbacks the buses take to get to the top, to drop all the people off in the check-in, and all the people do a tour. It doesn't look that impressive from there, but I can assure you it is very, very impressive. Also, I want you to notice something. This mountain here in the background, right back here, we actually have a trek that comes back down the side of this mountain, right? This is the Lodge Trek, and the standard Salcantay Trek comes down this mountain. That's where you get on the train and come through this valley surrounded on 3 sides by water. So very, very cool. Again, for those of you who are just joining, you guys can submit questions into the chat. I am recording this and I will send this out later. Okay, so there we are, Montaña Machu Picchu, right? So great, great hike, highly recommend it if you go there, okay? So let's hear some pro tips, right, for this area. Go really early, like you're the first 10, 15 buses up there, or go late in the afternoon. Very busy from 10 to 3. Lots of people, local people, people from all over the world, long, long Disneyland-ish lines. So I like to be up there first or last, right? If you're hiking Machu Picchu Mountain or Huayna Picchu, do those first. You must, I'm sorry, I should say must exit or enter to do Machu Picchu. So you go up and actually do Machu Picchu Mountain, you come back down, you have to actually walk outside the gates and go back in, because they have very controlled ways that they see people. There's no water inside, so you have to bring your own water inside. You can't purchase, there's very limited shade. And again, be careful with selfies. There's a German tourist that died while doing a selfie at Machu Picchu. Okay, so the Sun Gate, this is the 1-day trek to Machu Picchu, right? So it's the 4th day of the Inca Trail, right? And you take a train to the trailhead. So you're usually coming from a different direction, not coming from Aguas Caliente. It's the final day of hiking to Machu Picchu, 8 miles, 5 to 7 hours, hard final course. If any of you guys are doing the Hidden Valleys trek with Embark or whoever, we put that into that. It's a unique way to enter Machu Picchu kind of through the back door. So there's that train that basically stops at a mile marker, not at a train station, and everyone gets off and starts hiking, okay? So that's the trek itself, as it works its way up to 2,000 feet, okay? And I know some of you have seen this one too. And here's kind of the end. I'm not going to show you what it looks like at the end, but.
Nice job.
Now, it's not all like this, but this is a piece and it's kind of the grand finale. Okay, so again, Machu Picchu in the background, Huayna Picchu in the background as well. Great area to explore. If you have any questions about it, you can email me more and we can delve into more detail about Machu Picchu. Tonight's thing is about trekking and all the trekking that exists there, right? So key points for the Cusco region, right? Remember, 2 nights in Cusco, right? Treks are 5 to 6 days without Machu Picchu. Most people spend 1 full day at Machu Picchu, usually arriving the night before. So you arrive there the night before in the town, go out, have a nice dinner, then take a bus up, right? Or you can do the 1-day trek up. Full day of getting back to Cusco on train and a bus. Okay, now we're jumping into camping, right? We've got a lot of ground to cover tonight. So camping, what is a camping trek in the Cusco area like? So here's that area, again, this kind of national park for Machu Picchu, right? Here's a trail that goes along, runs along kind of the border. This is our Hidden Valleys track, right? This is a very, very cool, nobody's doing it. We're doing it. All the reports back are like, it's awesome. I don't see anyone. Sulcantai, right? So this is the Sulcantai mountain, that 20,000 foot mountain, right? So there's Umante Lake, by the way. So there's another trek that goes through here, comes along and ends before you go up to Machu Picchu, right? So another kind of cool direction way. Number 1 trek, most popular trek in this area, Inca Trail. Number 2, Sulcantai. So a lot of people are starting to do the Sulcantai. We do that mainly for lodges. We're doing the Hidden Valleys of Sulcantai, trying to mix it up, be there before anyone else gets there, right? So most of those treks to Machu Picchu have this kind of scenario where you start the trek and usually on the second day you're going over a 15,000 to 16,000 foot pass. That's typically what it is. Then it's kind of down, 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 a little blip down. Very, very standard for the Sulcantai treks, that kind of scenario, right? So here's someone who just passed the peak. This is the Hidden Valleys, and this group is going to go down this route. There's nobody on this Hidden Valleys route, right? I think some of you here are doing this trek also in June. So here we are at kind of one of those passes. So you see 4,600 meters. I think that's 15,000 feet. There's Yuri and Claudio, and here's a group that is going over the pass, right? So pretty standard. Remember, these are passes. They're not mountains. So if you've done Kilimanjaro, that is a summit peak. We are not climbing mountains in this region of Peru, right? So the cool thing about this area is there's a lot of culture on this trip. So this is a bunch of potato farmers. Peru has more than 3,000 varieties of potatoes. So when you go to, when I go to get potatoes at the store, there's like 4 or 5 kinds, right? When you go there are hundreds and hundreds of kinds. These are potato farmers up there. We went and met and talked with these guys and kind of got to know as we're kind of getting ready to go up in our truck, up and over. Kind of good to see that cultural piece on the trek. And on the Hidden Valleys trek, what's really nice is you have lots of these kind of very cool, like leftovers of the Incan Empire that you kind of stumble across. Nobody there as you're kind of heading down this valley, right? So a lot of people say, well, how many porters are going to be? Now remember, the porters are on the Inca Trail, okay? That they're not porters on most of the other treks we do. What we use are horses and donkeys. So this is what it looks like moving camps.
Francisco, Ariancho.
Yeah, so taking a step back again, so you do have a support staff, you do have people, anyone who does treks in this area, you are always hiring typically a cook, an assistant cook, and then what we call muleteers, right? And they control basically the horses that are coming. And we always actually bring a horse too, in case anyone could not get over or we have to get someone out really, really fast. Okay, so let's jump into food. All right, so kind of like your other trips you've been, right?
He's getting us all ready for our breakfast this morning. Beautiful tent that we can be cozy in. We need to be. Which is beautiful.
Yeah. So if you've been on the Kilimanjaro trip, it's a lot like that. I would say that the food in Peru is better than the Kili trip. So again, set up mess tent and everything like that all throughout, cooks. So one of the interesting things about Peru is there's lots of mountain trails. If you've ever been through Nepal, that get washed out, things happen. So you have to come on this trek to expect the unexpected. When scenarios happen where trails go out and stuff, there are people that have improvised different things. And this actually happened to me on the Untitled Trek. And this was like kind of a makeshift way to get to another trail before we continued on and had to cross back over. So this is what to expect. That was Uday and Asha. Yeah, Uday and Asha, Carrie and I were on this adventure as well. And that happened. And now we had to walk the other side of the river for 6 or 7 miles to a different bridge and cut through. So always come to Peru to expect the unexpected, kind of like if you've ever done our Nepal treks, right? You never kind of know what's going to happen. So the lodge treks in this area, right? So this is one of the lodges in the lodge trek. It looks very, very nice. These lodges were built up and over a pass in 2006. They're only accessible by foot, right? So here's the town of Cusco in the bottom, right? So you drive all the way over here, right? And then you start the trek. The first lodge, this is where you do 2 days of acclimatizing, right? You hike up to Umante Lake, back down. This is the only lodge that holds 24. A group arrives and then a group leaves and a group has an acclimatization day. So you start this trek and you're going to go up and over this pass right here, the blue line, going to Huayhuash Lodge, right? You're going to go on down to Copa Lodge, 9,400 feet. You're going to cross over to Loema Lodge, and you're going to go up and over another pass, come back down, get to the train, go down to Aguascalientes, spend the night, go up to Machu Picchu, come back down, go back to the train station and back. So very, very complicated piece, but this is how it works for the Solcantai camping trip and lodge trip, right? Okay, moving on. Lodges are only accessible by foot with the exception of day one, 12-person max, 6 rooms. So we just had a group of people book 12 spots into a lodge or whatever. And it's kind of romantic because you're hiking in each day, 7 or 8, 9 hours of trekking, and you get to lodge. Inside the lodges, they're pretty nice. They're new, but this is kind of what to expect. All right, so Ausangate Trek. So let me just check. I think we have some Ausangate people on this adventure here tonight. This is exciting. I really, really like this adventure. So depending upon the starting point, this is about 5 hours away from Cusco. This is not near Machu Picchu, okay? Most people are like, I want to go to Machu Picchu, so you kind of put it in at the end of the trek. This is 5 high passes over 16,000 feet and 1 over 17,000 feet. So it's 6 passes that you have to go over. There are some variations to it into it too, where you can get an extra pass or actually go around one. So it's a great thing to do. The trek begins or ends at the famous Rainbow Mountain, right? And it starts or ends at a hot spring. So we start at Rainbow Mountain. We want to kind of get that out of the way. Rainbow Mountain, I'm sure, again, for those of you who just joined, very famous place that all the day trippers go to. And then we actually end at a hot spring in a village. And there are a few villages along the trail. So Ausangate Trek. Okay. So here's Cusco again, where we came in. Now this is south. So here's Ausangate down in the south, whereas before we were up there northwest doing the Cusco or the Machu Picchu piece. So here is the start to the trek. These are the Salcantay Mountain is a bunch of different mountains where this is our Salcantay Mountain was one mountain that we went around. These are lots. This is a mountain range. So here we are. This is what it looks like when you're opening your tent in the morning. So great, stunning, quick view of the mountains. but you never sleep below 15,000 feet on this. So here's a camp that's kind of set up, right? And here's one of your views, and this picture does not do it justice, okay? So you go along the trek, as you can see, there's a series of mountains, and now I'm going to show you when we're cresting a 16,000 foot peak, and I want you to follow all the way through so you can get a look at the mountains in this next shot. Oh, one thing, I want to jump in. This area is very, very kind of, I want to say like old worldish cultural. A lot of people still dress traditional. So we slept on this woman's property, and it's great to employ kind of local people. She lives up there with her husband. She has a bunch of guinea pigs in there that they kind of eat once in a while. She's got a bunch of other little houses, and her kids have left into the city to look for work. This is another gentleman. He's one of our horsemen, right? And so again, if you can't get up and over a pass, you bring a horse. He lives in that area, in that region as well. So I want you to watch the first 20 seconds of this so you can, or the first 18 seconds of this so you can see where we camped on this woman's property. All right, so here's the one I was talking about before. Watch this all the way through, and you can see these mountains at the end. You can get out. So this is one of the passes that you cross right as my 16-year-old son makes it up there. Okay, watch the pan, right?
Fast.
Yes, so that is a beautiful area, and that's what the trekking is like in the area. You're going around and through and over passes in this area. So here's our group. And again, as you can see, we have basically some cooks that are helping and some assistant guide, and some horsemen. As you can see, the woman with the yellow traditional hat in the area, she is she's the wife of the man that's 2 over. So again, they support us on our trek, and they actually bring the llamas. So we bring llamas to carry gear sometimes on this adventure as well. So this is Claudio. This is a little pitch for us, but just whatever. I love Claudio. He's a good friend of mine. He's climbing Aconcagua with me in Argentina in February, but he's our site director for this part of Ausangate.
Hey everybody, this is Claudio. We're here exploring the Ausangate mountain range in Peru. We're preparing tons of great adventures for you in the future, and hope that you can join us.
Please, we're gonna be very happy with all of you here. We are very happy because of this big day as well. All the best to you in this winter solstice. See you soon.
All right, so that was Claudio, Ausangate. I know some of you are on that adventure. You're gonna love it. And again, that ends out of Hot Springs. So now we're jumping up to a little bit north of Lima, Ancash, right? And this is the other area that we're going to be talking about today. So this is a part that more hardcore mountaineers, more hardcore trekkers, more Europeans are going, whereas you kind of feel like there's more Americans in the Cusco area. But this is a great area, and it's pretty crazy. So where is the main city? It's at 10,000 feet where everything is based. You must spend, again, 2 to 3 nights of doing day acclimatization treks, right? So it looks like I wrote that twice, but there are a bunch of day treks you need to do before any long-term trek in this area. Again, I want to stress lots of people, even more so than Nepal, it feels like, more so than Kili, get altitude sickness in Peru because they try to go so fast, right? Okay. There's a huge amount of technical, non-technical climbing, ice climbing, rock climbing, you name it, it is there, right? And it's home to the Cordillera Blanca and Cordillera Huayhuash, okay? So very, very important, right? So a couple of things, right? You have to take a bus 8 hours to get there. There's no flights that go in this direction, and it's an overnight bus, but they're nice. You can sleep on them. I think this is comparable to the Himalayas, more accessible. I think this is better than Patagonia. I do lots of trips in Patagonia. I'm planning some big trips in Patagonia for some groups coming up, and this is better than Patagonia. It's unrivaled in South America. Countless day trips, multi-day trips, multi-week trips, summit passes. You could do 2 months here trekking and never hit the same place twice, and it is jaw-dropping amazing. Okay, so this is kind of a funny picture, but I wanted to use it for everyone to understand that. So the Cordillera Blanca, which I believe is about 120 kilometers long, about 40 kilometers wide, right? And that's base Juarez at the bottom, right? And then the Cordillera Huayhuash, right? And then below it, there's the Cordillera Negra, not as stunning as these two, right? And so this is the highest tropical mountain range in the world. And on this opposite side is the beginning of the Amazon. So these are the two areas we're going to be talking about for a few minutes, right? So Huayhuash versus Blanca, it's a hard one. It's a really, really hard one, depending upon how much time. I was there for a month recently, and I had to do as much of both, and it's interesting. So Cordillera Blanca is much bigger, right? Like I showed you. Cordillera Blanca, like I said, highest tropical mountains. Cordillera Huayhuash, more rugged and compact, right? I think the Huayhuash is one of the best 10 treks in the world. Numerous publications and people. Most people have not heard of it because Machu Picchu is in Peru, and everybody wants to see Machu Picchu. This is one of the best 10 treks in the world, hands down, right? So just look, I'm using pictures from both Blanca and Huayhuash, but just look at some of these pictures and what to expect, right? Gorgeous, gorgeous high altitude mountains, right? Trekking over passes to get around, crisscrossing through this area. It's wonderful. I was just here at this campsite, feel like just maybe 6 weeks ago, the only people we met on this entire trek that were Americans were from Washington State, Seattle. Anyway, you can kind of look right here if you know your meters and peaks here, but as you can see, a lot of times we'll have a camp. These are showing where the camps are, but we'll start at one, we'll go up over a peak and down, go up over a peak and down, trying to make it, a 5, 6, 7 hour day. There are some ways to do this where it can be a 3 hour day, but 3 hours of trekking to me is not enough by far. So, and here's another great site that we stayed at. So a couple things, these are the popular multi-day treks in here. There's the Santa Cruz trek, 3 to 4 days, 28 miles. Everyone's doing this trek, pretty mainstream in the Cordillera Blanca. Alpamayo, 10 days, 90 miles. Okay, so bottom right, Huayhuash circuit, 8 to 10 days, 70 miles. We do have a best of the Huayhuash that can be done in a short amount of time. One of the best treks in the world, at least known treks in the world, right? So quebradas. Quebradas are very interesting. These are quebradas or valleys, and these valleys are always accessible from Juarez, right? These are absolutely incredible hikes. I can't even stress. I've never went into quebrada and didn't come away with, oh my God, I can't believe this exists. So here's the town of Juarez, right? And those are the valleys, right? So each one of those are valleys. So here in Juarez, you can take a taxi, you can take a car, you can go up and you can start 14,000, 15,000, 16,000 and hike up these valleys. 3 hours, 5 hours, 7 hours over a pass to a refuge, come back over a pass and back down. This area is amazing. If Machu Picchu didn't exist in Peru, if Machu Picchu did not exist in South America, this would be the best top trekking place in South America, Central America, North America, in my opinion. It is great, right? So Laguna 69, 8.5 miles, amazing. This is an amazing day hike that you can do up there as well. You can mix these as training hikes at the front end before you do the long hike. Again, Laguna 69, right? Laguna Chura, 4,400 meters, right? Here's one of the visuals from up there. And here I am with my family and my wife and kids and nephew, right? Also, just real quick before we finish up, there's lots of rock climbing in this area as well. Great entry level, advanced, middle rock climbing, ice climbing as well. And here you can see again the quebradas in the background, Juarez, and here's my son making his way up it. So the key takeaways from tonight, right? More cultural sites near Cusco with good tracks, good cities and towns, good food, more kind of figured out, right? I guess. Stunning, longer treks in northern Peru, hard to combine both south and north unless you have more than 3 weeks. So sometimes people say, I want to go in Cordillera Blanca, but I want to go to Machu Picchu. You could, that's just a lot of work. You got to go back to Lima and then fly to Machu Picchu and that kind of thing. So it's hard. Machu Picchu overshadows all the other epic treks. Again, I love Machu Picchu. I think it's a great area. I'm saying there are epic treks and around the area, and especially in northern Peru. Travelers come to Peru more than once. So I've met a bunch of people there. While I've been to there, they're coming 3, 4, 5 times. It's a lot like Nepal, or even, yeah, sometimes Kili, but a lot like Nepal. So anyway, and the one thing I want you to say, if you ever come on one of our adventures, always have fun. Hold on, I got sweater. Have fun. Yes. So anyway, that ends it with me tonight. If anybody has any questions, you can kind of type them into the chat and I can answer them. Otherwise, I appreciate your time tonight. I'll be doing more of these. I have Secrets of Climbing Kilimanjaro the day after tomorrow. We have our first adventure to Pakistan coming up next year, K2 Base Camp. That's for an elite level trekker. We have, oh, Shelly, don't tell me that you are going to Ausangate. We have Trekking to Everest Space Camp 101. We've got a lot of things coming up. You'll see it in our events. So follow us on Facebook, watch us on Instagram, reach out again to me if you have any questions. Again, I appreciate all of your time. Thank you, guys.